Oh. Can I get a roll call, please?
Student trustee Tam. Present. Student trustee Rajan.
Present.
Student trustee Alvarado.
Present.
Trustee Tahada. Here. Trustee Lee.
Here.
Trustee Walker.
Present.
Vice President Gallegos.
Here.
President Slavedy.
Here, thank you. The board met in closed session before this meeting and we have nothing to report out. So I just said that early. I'm really tired of speaking. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda unless there's any changes on the minutes? There's no changes.
So moved. Second.
Can I, all those in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Same. Great. We have a couple of minutes to approve unless there's any changes. Can I get a call for approval of the minutes?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now I just, the report out of closed session that I said earlier, that went right there. And now we're going to move on to the things that we're most excited to do here at the school board is to acknowledge our students. And the first item on the agenda for that is our March Student of the Month. Now I'm going to turn that over to Dr. Moreno. There you go.
Sorry, I'm making you drag chairs.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Presta, everyone else here. Thank you. Thank you for hosting us this evening. I'm here to welcome and honor our Student of the Month, Pedro Suarez da Silva. And before I do that, I want to also welcome members of his friends and family that are here to help celebrate this achievement, as well as honor and acknowledge members of our Thornton team that are here. And like we always do when these board meetings occur and we are here to present, we roll deep. So that's how we do it here. I'm going to have some help in presenting Pedro Suarez da Silva, and I'm going to bring up his homeroom teacher, Ms. Kingsley Sweat, to also assist in sharing this moment. Ms. Sweat has been instrumental in being a mentor and guide for Pedro, and among other staff members here at Thornton High School, she just is as knowledgeable as to Pedro and everything he's done to achieve and overcome. So I'm going to ask Ms. Sweat if she would come up to help present Pedro, and then I'll come back to share the award.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce Thornton High School Student of the Month, Pedro Suarez da Silva. With unwavering motivation, pleasant demeanor, and friendly attitude, Pedro radiates positivity in every interaction. Always eager to participate, Pedro not only excels academically, but also fosters a supportive environment for his peers in all his classes. Pedro's active participation shows his dedication to academic excellence. And moreover, Pedro readily seizes every career and field trip opportunity that Thornton offers, demonstrating a proactive approach to shaping his future. Pedro embodies the essence of a model student. He's driven, affable, and always ready to embrace new challenges. So please join me in congratulating Pedro on this well-deserved recognition.
Good evening, everybody of the board. Thank you for having me. Boa noite a todos, e thank you for everybody for coming here and being here with me. My name is Pedro Henrique Soares da Silva. I'm a graduating senior from Thornton High School. I was born in Brazil, December 2005, to parents Daniela da Costa and Luis Carlos Pereira da Silva. I grew up in a city called Samambaia, Distrito Federal, which is the capital of Brazil. I come from a big extended family that got together every Sunday for barbecues. We call it churrasco over there. My earliest memory are playing soccer in the streets of my neighborhood with my friends and the people I used to grow up with. I grew up with a loving mother and father who gave me everything and more. I grew up with mostly my mother, even though I got into lots of trouble She didn't stop providing me and giving me everything and more that I could ever ask for. I had the best childhood any kid would want. But then when I was around 9 years old, as I was getting picked up from school by my mother, I got held at gunpoint. Thankfully, nobody was physically hurt, but the mental trauma that I got from it until multiple years I was already here, I can still remember. And then that led to my mother to come to California to find refuge with my grandma, who was here for multiple years already. And I hope to go back to Brazil to visit as soon as my visa gets approved, be able to see my family again. I haven't seen my father in a couple of years, close to a decade now. When I moved to the US in 2015, I knew zero to no English, didn't know a single word, no thank you, no bye. I was really far from home, the farthest I've ever been. But when I came here, I got called back to fourth grade because of the difference in age and maturity that is from there to over here. But 4 years later, I got hang of English. I passed the LPAC and was reclassified in the eighth grade. The following 2021 school year, I was enrolled at Galileo High School Academy of Science in San Francisco, trying to do it at home in learning because of the pandemic. Like so many other students, I struggled in many classes, but excelled in biology, earning A's because I find science fascinating. I like that my teacher was approachable and funny. I appreciated his flexibility, and he let us watch movies. One that stood out to me was Oswald Jones, which for a reason he let me watch in a separate Zoom class. And if you haven't watched it, it will probably make you rethink the 5-second rule. My family moved to Daly City for a bigger space in my 10th grade, so I was enrolled at Westmore High School. I continued to struggle in my classes, but my favorite class was auto tech. I enjoyed doing hands-on work and appreciated our teacher, Mr. Disregard, who was approachable, chill, funny, and real. Plus, he always had good coffee. It was a lie that I needed in school since I was going through a lot of mental struggles. And even though I had poor attendance, I would prioritize this class. At the time, I was struggling with my mental health, and thankfully, I found my way back to God. During my 11th year, I transferred to Thornton High School, my third high school. It's true what they say, third time is a charm. Since then, my grades have improved a lot. I earned my first 4.0 GPA during my first semester. I took advantage of opportunities like participating in the SFO internship program, where I learned about different departments like the heavy equipment department, security dispatch, and green energy career pathways. A highlight of my internship was participating in the electrification plan, which it gave me the opportunity to talk to vendors and it gave me a in-person, real-life opportunity to know the difference between school and his adult life. This past school year, I continued strong and kept up my GPA of 3.6 and higher. Being selected Student of the Month is a highlight of my senior year. I'm also happy to report that I'm really close to finishing high school. Probably by the end of this week, I should be done. And we'll cross the stage and graduating in May. When it comes to future plans, I have many options here in the US. One of them is returning to SFO to redo the internship and continue to learn about different career pathways. I plan to apply to college where I want to pursue a career in medicine, law, or automotive. Thank you to JUHSD, board, Thornton staff, and to everyone here listening to my story of struggle and success tonight. I'm proud to be Student of the Month. Obrigado, boa noite.
Thank you. I'll open it up to the board for any comments. Starting with our student trustees, if you want to go first. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, congratulations for being Student of the Month. From what I heard first from your teacher, I was like, they not only mentioned the academic, but they I can't speak right now, I'm sorry. They also mentioned like a little bit about you, your energy, what you transmit to like the class and the school. And then when you told your story, it's like I kind of got that energy too. Like your story was really, really nice. I really enjoyed it,
Thank you.
especially of the 5-second rule. I might consider it. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. I'm from Oceana High School. It's a shame that you didn't go to Oceana instead of Westmore. It's not it's a better school. But I truthfully, your story is really inspiring. To see you come from Brazil to a completely foreign country and not only assimilate to the culture, the language, but also thrive in the education system here. I mean, that's really impressive. There's no other words that can really honor that success. And so congrats on everything you've done. You've inspired me. I wasn't expecting. I thought this meeting was going to be a little boring. You guys structured it well, starting off with this. So thank you. I mean, you must be a really prideful person, and I mean, your family must be really proud.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I want to first say congratulations, and even though you had to transfer to out of Westmore, which is unfortunate, I'm really happy that you were thriving at Thornton, and your story was really inspiring and heartwarming. And I hope your path in your career through, I believe, automotive, you said, law and medicine. I truly hope you the best of luck, and I know that you could do all three.
Thank you.
Hello. I also thought this was going to be a boring meeting. You are definitely very inspiring to think that you've been here for 9 years, not knowing any English, suffering trauma, that your mother got you out of there. What a dramatic way to start your young life. And that you've been here for 9 years, not knowing any English. And now look at you. You're student of the month. And you're graduating high school early. And really, you can do anything. And you do exude this confidence and humility at the same time, which I really love. Thank you to the Westmore staff and the Thornton staff who helped you along the way, but especially your family. Look at all of them here, your family and friends. I really hope that you will let us know how you're doing in the future and come back and visit. But I know there are great things ahead for you.
Thank you so much.
Indeed, congratulations. Very, very excited for you and very honored to have you here tonight. I mean, your story is very inspiring. And, you know, it's because of students like you that I am gratified by. It gratifies the work that I do. You know, I mean, I'm here because of our students, and to see your success really just is reflective of the success that we have as a district, and especially of the Thornton family who's done amazing work with you, but you did the work. And so proud of you for doing the work. And we know that you are on your way to bigger and better things. And we couldn't be more excited and more proud of you.
Thank you.
Again, congratulations. I just made a couple notes and I think I have a theme. Sorry, I'm reading my notes and I'm not looking at you. So it kind of seems like you're good at making the best of a situation. You know, moving here is kind of starting over, and everyone's already said, you know, can't imagine not knowing the language. You know, congratulations on that journey. You sound like you continue to grind. I'd like to talk about that. We're here. It was good to hear you talking about the culture, your family culture. You know, you seem like you still have some support and you keep on working hard. And I guess I would encourage you in whatever way you can to continue to share that kind of spirit. to the people around you. And I'm going to share a little bit with you. So you say you may pursue a career in law. So let's get through a couple undergraduate years and then let's talk before you make that leap. Thanks for sharing with us and congratulations.
Thank you.
He's a lawyer. That's why he said that.
No, it's a really like the student trustee said, really inspiring story. Pedro, congratulations. I think you can tell we're all proud of you for, all your accomplishments thus far. I know it's hard for a lot of us to imagine the things that you probably went through as a kid, especially some of the traumas that you talk about. It does sound like that you were surrounded by a big loving family though. And it definitely shows that helped you get through all that stuff. And it's important to have that, right? I mean, and I think it's important to know that when we look at the people sitting around us too, that's just an extension of that family, and that love and that support. That's what you're getting at Thornton, from the instructors there. I don't know if I would watch that osmosis thing that you're talking about. I've saved a lot of good food that way. So, so I'll just keep that off my Netflix watch list. But in your journeys, I think you're gonna see that there's a lot of paths. There's a lot of different ways to go. And I encourage you to explore those. I don't think there's any right way to go about your journey. It's just kind of follow your heart, listen to the people that are close to you, and just keep working hard. It's gotten you this far. It's going to take you to the next step. And, I'm happy to see kids like you overcoming all the obstacles, working hard to get through that, still being ambitious, and dreaming big. So keep doing that. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Echo what all of my colleagues said. And for me, it's hard sometimes that the world holds no grace for children. And what children have to go through, continually breaks my heart. But I'm happy that in looking at the big picture and the problems of the world, what we can do is offer a safe space for you here so that you can be yourself and live out your dreams. And so I'm so happy that you were able to connect with the Thornton family and, the environment that they provide so that you could heal and grow and be the child that you need to be, that you deserve that space. And for your mom and your dad, like the sacrifices that they made, it's just so moving. And the temperament of the country today, like I wish people could truly hear and understand the stories of the refugees that need to find respite in this country. And for me, that's just good parenting. You have fantastic parents. So thank you to your parents and everyone else who supported you. And this is just one day with us, but I hope, like they said, the video is going to be on YouTube. Life will continue to be challenging. You can reflect back on this video and know that, you're going to stay in my mind and my heart for a very long time. And whatever you're doing, I'm going to be really supporting you. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I always have the very not great position of going after everybody else. And so Pedro, I don't think that I can be more well-spoken than what was already said. I will just add that I'm really, really glad that you shared your story with us today, that there's a real power when we share our story with people. So thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing yourself with us. I'm super proud of you. And like was one of the things I will reiterate is that, you have a presence that is very positive and strong. And I too felt it when you were talking. And I have all the confidence that you are going to do very, very well in this life. And thank you to your family and friends for being here. And just best of luck.
Thank
Thank you. So we'll give you another round of applause.
Yeah.
One more person to honor, and then we're gonna do pictures. So if you just want to have a seat, and we'll be right back with you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So. Next up is honoring. What? Oh, I was just waiting some. Was there more time? Next up is honoring Jefferson High School Activities Director, Martine Kelch, and I'm turning it over to Superintendent Prescott.
Thank you so much. And thank you for giving me a minute. She saw me pulling it up. Martine, please come up. You get the hot seat now. You don't have to.
Oh.
You don't have to do anything, but I do want you up here so everybody can see your face. Okay, so I'm going to read. JUHSD recognizes Jefferson High School Activities Director Martine Kelch for receiving the Outstanding Service Award at the CATA, California Association of Directors of Activities Conference, which was held in Reno. Selected by her state counterparts, Ms. Kelch was named the recipient of this award for her exemplifying the leadership that improves the quality of student activities at Jefferson High School, along with the consistent level of commitment and care she gives to the Jefferson High School community. Our site activities directors work hard to create campus environments that are inclusive, safe, and fun. This is something Ms. Kelch does extremely well. Congrats on this honor, Ms. Kelch. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Tony's given an award. I'll open it up again for board comments, starting with our student trustees if there's any.
I'll just say like one.
Okay,
thing.
no, hold on.
One thing.
Okay, good. You're fine talking. We're open. The
Part of
floor,
my
please.
job is speaking on the fly.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say that CATA's like been really like monumental. And when I was hired by Keith Irish, 12 years ago or something, he basically was just like, "Don't worry, you're going to CATA." And I was like, "What's that?" Because no one told me my title. The students did. So I was like, "Wait, what?" I thought I'm just teaching history.
Oh, hold on. Your mic, they need you to move a little closer to your mic.
Oh,
Just,
okay.
You can move
You
it
can
to you.
pick up the mic
Pick it up.
too.
Yeah, you just move it. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll project teacher voice. So CATA really has taught me my job, as well as I want to give props to Michael Simon, who also won this award, and I'm not sure he was recognized. So I'm gonna.
So thank you.
So I have to look in the years, but he has also won this award. So 2 people in the district, and I want to make sure he gets his props because he has been like my mentor. And he always does all the paperwork for us, and he's really good. So yeah, this association is amazing. We had over 2,500 people this year over the state, and I'm on the council as well for the Area B constituency, which is the whole Bay Area. So we plan all the conference for the students, which we have every year in November at James Logan High School in Union City, and we're hoping to actually break out and do more mini conferences, which I want to host one at Jefferson, maybe next year, for the peninsula schools. And we also plan the adult portions of the conference we were just at. So yeah, I basically started the social media a couple years ago. They didn't have any. So I was like, we need an account. So I've been the social media marketing person, and it's been really good. And I've learned so much, and I'm really thankful that our district has funded it and supported it and understands how important activities is. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, and I just want to give a shout out to my executive board who came to support. And they're so sweet. And Principal Harrigan, who is also a previous activities director. So it's the first time I've had a principal who's done activities, which makes all the difference when you hire admin, let me tell you.
All right.
So thank you.
Okay, now opening it up for board comments, starting with our student trustees.
Well, congratulations, Ms. Gouch.
Thank you.
I personally haven't had you as a teacher yet, but for you to get this title is like it shows what you're capable of, like all the involvement you've been doing in the school, the activities. And well, since I go to the school, I've seen those activities and they're actually very well planned. So thank you.
Thank you. I hope you're going to dance on Saturday. Tickets are still on sale.
Getting my money. Okay.
Okay. Side play.
Congratulations on the award at Oceana. I know how hard our student activities director works.
Mr. Corp, I love it.
I mean, it's from 0 periods to staying after school to work on events. It's often that students get the recognition for planning and doing everything, but it's the activities directors that are really the backbone and do a lot of the work behind the scenes. They just unfortunately don't get as much recognition. And so the job seems extremely hard. And so congratulations on being able to manage it and getting an award at CATA. I know there's a lot of high schools around California and it's really competitive with student activities. I mean, some of the schools in LA and down south, they have these crazy big events. They do insane stuff. And so it's awesome that the school in the Jefferson Union was able to receive an award. And so that just goes to show your strength as a director and how much you've really helped out students. So thank you for everything.
Thank you.
I want to first start off by saying congratulations. I'm in student government at Westmore, so I've seen how much work student activities directors do and how much time and effort you put into it. And I know that you probably have like so much love for these students because I know how stressful and hardworking you guys will have to be for planning all the events and being able to support everyone. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Oh, I miss you.
I know. It's like we knew her as Ms. D before she became Mrs. Couch. She's Ms. Couch. But so my daughter Carly had you for 4 years in the ASB. Of course, there were times she's, oh, Ms. D's Couch, she wants me to do this and that. But then, oh, she's controlling. You taught her so much. And just being around, seeing what they did in ESB and how they elevated it, and they really, they put a lot of work into it. And you introduced a lot of new things every year to keep the students engaged. And during the pandemic, that was rough, but you still kept them engaged. You still had them making videos and, reaching out to each other. That socialization that they couldn't have in person really made a difference. I know for my daughter and for a lot of the other students that she was on Zoom with. And then when they were filming in person, masked, you really made a difference for them. And, my daughter goes to NYU, your alma mater. She's a sophomore now. And I told her we were honoring you tonight. And I asked her, is there anything you want me to tell her? And she said, hey, just thank her for everything. Like I wouldn't be where I am without her.
Oh.
So thank you. It's just congratulations. Well deserved.
Thank you.
Indeed. Congratulations. Very proud of the work you've done. And I know I've had the honor of speaking in front of your class a couple of times over the years. And it's always just very cool to be able to walk in there and just and have their attention because you've got them, and it's just incredible work. So congratulations, well deserved. I know you're going to continue to do incredibly cool things at that campus.
Thank you.
Congratulations for 12 years of success. I've yet to do anything for 12 years successfully. I'm not joking. So, and then you got this award. I was a teacher and I had this curriculum, and I always had this curriculum to fall back on. And I feel like you don't have this curriculum to fall back on. You have your creativity to fall back on. You have, the ability to make opportunity in the school community for these students to drive you. And I don't know how I would ever do that. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for 12 past years, and let's do 12.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Ms. Couch. I was just sitting here thinking, being in charge of student activities, sounds like you wear a lot of hats. And sounds pretty busy. Sounds like there's a lot involved with that. I'm not really sure personally what that entails, but
You should come by.
yeah, I'll take you up on that. But I do know that getting kids to partake in any activity can be challenging,
Yeah.
let alone high school kids. So, and to be honored for something like that, not just locally, but through state counterparts, people all over the state. That's awesome, and it's really cool to know that you're representing our district in that fashion. And obviously says a lot about your work ethic and how much pride you take in doing what you do and giving all you can to the students. So I appreciate that and thank you for that and your continued success.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That we started the district at the same time. And it's been amazing watching what you've done at Jefferson. And it's so much work outside of activities, volunteering, changing the mascot.
The student play.
I know. But students that were lifted up in the foundation base. It's with you. So I'm so appreciative of all the work that you do, and people. I get talked to a lot about life skills that we need to impart our students with. And your program is the embodiment of what it's like to just work inside of, get a job outside and learning how to plan strategy, meet deadlines, set budget, all the things that people say that we need to be teaching kids. They don't realize there's so many different places where kids are picking up and students are picking up these life skills. And you are one of the places that people don't recognize enough. And I'm so glad that you're here and continue to work with our students. So thank you so much.
Again, I'm last, and a lot of the good thoughts have already been taken. No, I just want to say, Martine, you were one of the first people when I started working in the school district. Like, your energy shines and radiates, and your excitement and the way that the kids are drawn to you is evident. And so I'm thankful as superintendent that you're here. I also want to say that until my own son is now in ASB, I didn't really understand what activities directors did and what the students did for the school. So much of the, we're there educating kids, but the school kids go to school because of all of the activities and their friends and the connections that they have. And so that's such an important part of school. And I didn't understand what went into that, the budgeting, the planning, the ideas. It's a lot. And I'd never heard of CATA till this year either, really. I mean, I think I had a much better understanding of what it is. And I'm really very impressed that you won an award from, the larger organization, because that we know you stand out, but they know you stand out too. So congratulations. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So we are going to do pictures. And so we'll do a picture with you, since you're already up. We'll do a picture with you and your group first. And everybody's in the picture. Don't get under. I'm glad you brought your. Okay, I heard it. Yeah. Oh, okay. You can say right here. Okay, you know, do we need to go forward more? So that we can,
An angle shot. 1, 2, and 3. One more. Congratulations.
Okay, but more time with this kid, we're gonna like, you know, and move up. And I know there's a lot of people. Whoever you would like in your picture, come on up. Yeah. I mean, Thornton employees don't chat.
Get in, man.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
So Thornton staff and any guests at Pedro.
It's not too many people. We can hear
Thornton staff. We said we're filming, so we're gonna multitask.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So, yes. Thank you. Our board report and starting with our student trustees. Westmore first.
For Westmore High School, last week we started our opening night for Grease, the musical, and it was really nice. The sets were really nice. We also had Pie Day last week, where I believe the maths department hosted like a bunch of events where students walk around the school, learning more about pie and like pie.
Last week for Oceana hosted our very first Spring Fest. And so it was a similar model to our Halloween Fest that we host on the last Friday before Halloween, where we invite all students free of charge, families, and more importantly, the Oceana communities. We really encourage 8th graders and 8th grade families to come in, as it's a fun event to really incentivize the local 8th graders to join Oceana and join the district. And so that went really well. It was the first time we had it, and it was led by 2 underclassmen presidents, and they did a phenomenal job. Our principal said that it's now going to be continued going forward. And so that event has just been added to Oceana's ASB's long list of ongoing events. Some 8th grade families were really interested in the school and in the district, and it was a really low key way of kind of convincing them to come in and join and forget the other school. So it was great. And then right now, our ASB is focused on setting up for Oceana Senior Exhibition. And so setting up booths, setting up tables, working with OSPTO whatever's needed for our presentations that are happening next Friday.
So for Jefferson, so due to our block schedule, we just had finals. So it was like 2 hour class. It was exhausting, but we got the finals done. And I think that just took it all, that took like all the space in my brain. But I think today we had a baseball game at home against who? I don't know. But there was a baseball game. I started playing. Badminton's also going on. And like Miss Kelp said, we have the spring dance coming up and she wants me to buy a ticket. So I have to buy it. That's all.
So I did attend the Oceana Spring Festival. It was great. My great nephew will be attending Oceana. So I met him, my nephew and his wife there. There were a lot of incoming 8th grade parents. It was kind of low key, but you could tell all the students just, they enjoyed the activities there. And the students were there to talk to the incoming 8th graders and with any questions they had. My great nephew is very shy, but he loved it there. I mean, and he explored. He just, because at his school it's very small, and so the wide open spaces, it just felt really good. And I also met some parents. That was nice. I did attend the student advisory meeting last night, and we had 2 visitors, 2 8th graders who represent us, the student reps at PSD. One will be a freshman at Terra Nova and another will be a freshman at Oceana. And they are already wanting to join the Student Advisory Council, become a student trustee. So it's really cool. And I think now maybe we should outreach to Jefferson Elementary and maybe you guys can start something there. And let's see. So I've also, next Thursday, we've got, I'm on the Commission on the Status of Women. And we have our RISE Women's Leadership Conference at College of San Mateo. There'll be some great guest speakers, but we have also been working on women's economic empowerment and childcare issues, the impact of lack of childcare access. So there's still tickets available. You can go to the website for, and also there are scholarships available if you can't afford the ticket. But it's you just go to the website for the San Mateo County Commission on the Status of Women. Thank you.
Right. Past couple of weeks, what's been going on? We did have we attended the resolution signing for between Daly City and us for the Ceremony Del Rey project. That was actually a nice event to be able to attend. We had our Thornton site meeting on Thursday, followed up with the tour of the new adult education and district office, which was really pretty remarkable. Thank you to Stephanie Phillips for conducting the tour. And I know I'm very excited for the new office space and classrooms for all of our staff and especially for our adult transition students, and just to see how much light will be in each of those buildings. And we're just very excited for better learning and working conditions for everyone. So that was good. And I was also on Saturday morning attended, at least for the first hour, the Be the Change Youth Coalition event at IBL. Really good to see, our students along with our own Mary Beard talking about mental wellness, especially in that first hour. So it was actually another well-run event.
Great.
I'd like to talk about going to see Grease at Westmore on Saturday night. I like going to student events. I like seeing students being brave, putting themselves out there, competing in sports, mock trial. I'm going to be an evaluator for senior exhibition at Oceana. I really enjoy this. Grease was a lot of fun. There were some great performances, and the whole cast and crew absolutely killed one scene. You have to go see it, and it's not the one you think it is. Thank you.
I just want to start off by giving our student trustees a shout out tonight. You guys have done amazing speaking, supporting, your students and your staff, and it's really cool to see you guys up here doing your thing, and I appreciate that. So big shout out to you guys tonight. I also was with Andy and Kalima and Charette at the tour of the new district office, and those buildings are pretty awesome. I'm anxious to see what they're going to look like when they're all finished up. Big spaces, that's for sure. It's going to be fun. And I'm going to go see the Westmore musical Grease on Friday, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, me too.
You gonna be there Friday? Cool. So yeah, that's about it. It's easy week.
Yeah. So same, having the Thornton school site meeting was one of those moments that remind me of like, this is why, we all work so hard. It's hearing from a parent directly, talking about how Thornton changed their students' lives. And it always, those meetings, they're explaining to us what the program is, and I'm all, but it's all, I look at the level of excitement and enthusiasm that the parent is sharing where, you see your child thriving after so much hardship. And so to know that, we were able to make that happen for that family is always one of those moments that keeps me going. I went to the crab feed fundraiser for the Daly City Coma Chamber. And I go to that every year because it supports the scholarships program that they run for our students, even though I am definitely allergic to seafood. So I take my EpiPen. I'm ready just in case someone
I didn't know that.
likes seafood on me. But Mr. Harrigan and everyone, I was there with Mr. Harrigan and my partner, and I was told it was delicious, and it looked like it was the way they were just going it down. Great. And then I also participated in CSBA had, instead of having us go to Sacramento for Advocacy Week, they had it virtually, which was hugely helpful for me because I was able to attend. And CSBA can sometimes be disappointing to me in what they ask us to advocate for, because I feel like that doesn't really affect our school district. But this time, they finally listened, and they really were advocating for things that I thought were hugely monumental. And I wanted to talk about two of them. One is SB 1315, which is going to address the number of reports required by local educational agencies. I know. I know. And so they are finally, if this is passed, will require the California Department of Education to produce a report just on the number of all the reports required of LEAs. No one knows how many reports school districts are required to produce. So they can't ask, or put on restrictions. And when they started thinking about it, and then when they actually started thinking about it, and started putting together, they realized it was monumental. So this would be an assessment. And then after that assessment, really kind of, is there a way that we can combine? Can there be one place where all the information goes, and then folks go to that place to get the information instead of pinging each school district over and over? I know it's common sense thinking.
Mind blowing.
It's so crazy. So I was very happy to advocate for that. And then the other thing, they had all the school board members asking for focus on sustaining existing programs and to not constantly legislate more instead of unfunded mandate. And I know that when we had the local breakfast that we went to, that was met with a little bit of anger from one of our local legislators, but it needs to be said. I mean, we can't get any footing or grounding to do anything if it's a constant every year having to restart from beginning because we're told to do something else or do something differently. You need to give us some time to settle, figure things out. So it was really good that those two things were at the forefront outside of just the funding and not, I'm asking the governor not to borrow money on Prop 98, which I'm sure Tina will get into, but to have some things that would really have heavy impact on our school district right away. So that's it for me.
I was going to say I don't have a lot to say tonight, but now I have a comment. So all of the things that, the Board of Trustees shared, there's a lot going on. I've been at most of that, not all of it. And thank you for being a very involved board who shows up, because that makes a really big difference for our schools and our students. So lots of exciting things happening, but I'm going to comment actually on what you just said, President Salahuddin, about the CSBA's focus on reducing, because we were just having a conversation. I'm going to put Deputy Superintendent Van Rapport on the spot, not really, but we were talking today about a report that we just learned what was going to have to go in this report. It's around our ESSER funds about a month ago. And what has to go in that report has changed a few times. And I think you told me that the state estimates that it's 108 hours, 152 hours for her to do this one report.
That's due April 5th.
That's due April 5th.
Whoa.
So this is just one example, and it's kind of an extreme example. I mean, it is like the short time frame, the sheer number of hours that is going to take this one person to do this, but it's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And so I will just leave it at that. So that makes me very, very happy that CSBA is working on that. We're grateful to that. Yeah. That's it for me.
I don't know if any of us have any subcommittees reports to talk about. No, be great. I will now turn it over to AFT Local 14, President Casey.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I'm glad that you all are working on that as well. I was just at State Council, Division Council, I'll explain that all in a minute, and a leadership conference for CFT this past weekend. So, my two mottos, one of them is better working conditions means better learning conditions for our students. And then the second newer motto is getting more people involved in the union so that they understand what it is we do. And also you can't have a union without everyone being involved. So I had two people come to the leadership conference that hadn't been before and learned a little bit about state council and division council. Division council is ECTK 12. So early childhood, transitional kindergarten through 12th is one group. And that group gets together and talks about Senate bills, assembly bills that we could influence. And then the other one is classified council. And so since I had two teachers come, I was able to actually go to the classified council and not, usually I have to bounce between the two. But since I had people there with me, it was wonderful to be able to split the duties. And then state council is where we bring resolutions or ideas that we want to bring to the assembly and to the Senate or resolutions, and we vote on them. So that's one of the things that our union does. And so I got two new people to get involved, and they seem pretty excited about learning more. So yay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so moving on to consent agenda, unless anyone wants to pull an item, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Thank you.
I just had something and I was one step behind you. May I bring something up that was on the consent agenda?
No problem.
So one of the trustees sent me a question today about the governance calendar. So apparently we have one of our board meetings is on election day. So we didn't notice that when we were planning it. And there's nothing wrong with that. We can certainly have a board meeting on election day. But if the board would like us to look for another date because they don't wish to have a board meeting on election day, we can do that.
Yeah, we can put it on future agenda items.
Yeah.
Have that discussion there. So, okay.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
So I sent you the question, and when I sent it to you, one thing I was thinking about is that a couple of weeks ago we had a board meeting when we were voting, but I thought it might be more impactful in November because people vote here. But then I just now realized we won't be here.
No, we won't.
Yeah.
But maybe the board doesn't
But
want to have.
there's still challenges, and I think we could talk about it. You know?
Yeah.
So
So we could bring the calendar back. Just put on future agenda item and bring it back at the next meeting.
yeah, would you? So is the direction for us to change it?
It will most likely. Yes. I don't know.
I'll bring some
Because it's not
versions
the right
back
time
so
to
that
talk
we're in
about
there. You got it.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we could add it to a future agenda.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I wish I could suck up the moment before so we
Okay.
would have pulled it off. Darn it.
Just approve it. I know. So no public comments?
No.
Okay, moving on to discussion items. Our first item is 16A1, the presentation of JUHSD math program. Turning it up to Deputy Superintendent Baca.
Good evening, President Salahuddin. Tonight, I'm very excited to introduce a not so boring presenter, Miss Ashford, who will be sharing our updates on our math program. So I want to introduce Miss Ashford.
Come on.
Come on.
Like the
yeah.
So hi, sorry, I'm obsessively looking at the slides because I was like, "What's the last one?" So I'm, well, first of all, good evening, President Salahuddin, members of the board, and Superintendent Presta and others. I'm Kristen Ashford. I've been a math teacher in this district since I was at Jeff, starting in 2007. And then came to the district office as an instructional coach, and then am now at Terra Nova because I wanted to be back in the classroom, understanding what it is like to teach after the pandemic. It is, and I really miss the students, being with the students. And right now, as the math lead, I wanted to just, I've never been here. So, I mean, to talk about the math world that we're in. And so that's what I'm going to talk about. So, what's going on with mathematics? I literally was making this presentation and the Marvin Gaye song came on. And I was thinking about like how, he's talking about, holding a mirror up to what's going on in society and civil rights, but from this point of view of compassion, but still unflinchingly looking at it. And I thought, well, that's what we're trying to do all the time in education is hold a mirror up to what's going on, but still with compassion because we're still all human beings. Ideally, I truly believe doing the best we can. So yeah. So 4 parts to this. It goes against every fiber of my being to talk for even 15 minutes straight and without engagement, because I don't do it with teachers and I don't do it with students, but okay, so I'm going to talk and yeah, okay. So our math pathways. We're going to talk about why we have the integrated pathway and why we and when we changed. I'm going to talk then about efforts we've made in the last several years to increase student achievement and teacher efficacy. Going to reference then our CASP, our SBAC scores, Smarter Balanced Math scores, and then talk about just a little bit about the new mathematical framework and where we go from here. So our math pathways. Why do we have the programs that we do? So first of all, what are they? This is our current math pathway. You'll notice that we have course 1 and course 2. These are integrated courses. They don't have what used to be a course 2 bridge in between, which is really great. All students move from course 1 to course 2. This was a big focus for us in terms of equity so that students weren't getting caught in non-college prep classes. And then they can choose to go on to explorations in data science, which has been a little bit of an issue. I can speak more to that if anyone's interested. Recently, the Board of Admissions and Relations rescinded what they had already said would validate for a third year math class. So our students who took data science last year, this year, and next year counts as their third year C-level math class. It will no longer continue to do that if the challenge doesn't go through. So there are many people that are challenging the recent ruling, but so this is an issue and we'll have to revisit an alternate pathways. Many people believe that in order to have an equitable environment for our students within mathematics, understanding that there are multiple pathways, not just ones that lead to an engineering pathway like calculus. That doesn't mean it's not rigorous, but we would end up in a statistics potential pathway. So these are our courses. Data science can lead to statistics. Course 3 can lead to AP stats or AP calc. And of course, if you take course 3, you can also go into CP stats. We also have this right here started at Terra Nova. It's for special education for students who needed a little bit more support before going into that high school experience. Parents requested having just a little bit extra support. So we have course 1 broken up into 1A and 1B. It's kind of like first semester and second semester. Students can come in at any of these different levels though, including co-taught courses. So why do we have these pathways and not the traditional pathways? In about 2012, we moved to Common Core in the state. And with that, there was this option to move from the algebra, geometry, algebra 2 model to integrated. So integrated, one reason that our district looked at this was because it would allow us to incorporate algebraic concepts all 3 years. That was definitely one reason. And I'll talk about another reason in terms of grades and data. Another thing that we talked about was that it would allow students to some flexibility to explore concepts over time rather than here's algebra, shove everything in this year, and then really restrict it. Silicon Valley Math Initiative helped us with that during that time in that transition and really started some of the work that we're picking up again in terms of looking at open tasks and looking at math that's beyond the standards, check, and looking at math practices. And then what about nearby districts? So why don't any nearby districts use an integrated pathway? I'm in touch with the Matoses from our nearby districts. In speaking with someone from San Mateo Union, essentially, other than Cappuccino, they did not feel a need and there would be too much pushback from parents who are familiar and very trusting of the system they have. They already feel safe with it. And Cappuccino did not feel that way. So they actually did do an integrated pathway starting after the pandemic. And they're having some success with kind of meeting students where they're at and bringing them through, because in the high school standards, it's kind of, they're in big ideas. It's not like you have to do this in 9th grade. You have to do this in 10th grade. So there's a little more flexibility. San Francisco Unified, and speaking with one of their Matoses, they actually wish they had. They might not be dealing with some of the issues that they're currently dealing with in terms of pushback, as well as potential issues with tracking. But they felt it was too much at the time. So really, it is the reality of equity-driven change up against tradition. And so why have we continued it? So what's the rationale? If I remember when we first switched to it, the big difference that we talked about at Jeff was the huge drop in D's and F's in our Algebra 1. So I really want to call your attention to two things. One is that if you look at the average D and F rate from the first semester of algebra to the second semester, it's 10% during those years from 2009 to 2013. So I'm just looking when everybody came in doing Algebra 1, because before that, we track students too. And so I'm looking at when we didn't. And then what's going on in that second semester, for those of you students that have taken, math course 2, that's when you're doing quadratics. You're doing much more abstract conceptual stuff. So that second semester, when you have from 9th graders doing it, it's tough. And so they said, okay, well, our integrated math takes concepts from the first semester of geometry, first semester of Algebra 1, and we do that in that first year. And that tends to work for most 9th graders. And then when they've, kind of
intellectually matured a bit. They're used to high school. We then tackle quadratics and more abstract algebraic concepts in math course too. So you can see that decline in D's and F's, and in particular, the F rate really dropped. So that's why it really does seem to benefit us. And again, the flexibility. So what have we done? So I mentioned having more open tasks when we first switched over to this integrated pathway. We have also continued to look at professional development collaboration through district support. And that really, I feel like, got started with that. So, it's a PDF. My quotes, I thought I would have, sorry, my little changes, but we have what's underneath the slides. I'll tell you this, with our scope and sequence. Is first of all, we've got resources that build conceptual understanding. We've got nice to know versus need to know skills that happened during the pandemic. We came together as a district. We had many conversations. All your math teachers came together and we said, what is nice to know versus need to know? We've got students in a pandemic, and it really got us actually talking vertical alignment as well as course alike. We continued that conversation afterwards. And also we have had multiple articulation meetings with our feeder schools and with Skyline to talk about potential overlaps, way we can build on each other's instruction, actually. And then another one is that they're doing site work with the blue sheets. Now, why are those things covering what I had initially put in there? Because one of the most meaningful things was the collaboration we've done, which is the course alike days. In the last few years, teachers in course 1, 2, and 3 have come together and taken a full day, and we've built it around an instructional focus, meaning a pedagogical focus, as well as a content area. So I would go and ask all the teachers, course 1, what's most, what do you want to collaborate most on? What do you need more ideas on? And these are quotes from teachers. So that top left one, it's so meaningful having the time and space to actually plan with course alike colleagues, because we never have enough time at our sites. There's things like WASC, there's things like staff meetings. The most meaningful was hearing ideas from other schools and time to explore ideas. So it's great that Ms. Orenholt has an amazing project at Oceana, but people at Westmore, Ms. Polo then sees it and goes, we're doing it in our department now. Okay. And then we talk about specific things that aren't just content, the math practices. We talked about balancing conceptual understanding. So that's like, why do we solve equations the way we do, with procedural? And for too long, we have done too much heavy on the procedural. And with Common Core 10 years ago, it's not about the standards, not like just can you do this? It's also about the math practices. Can you justify and reason? Can you understand structure? Can you understand patterns through repeated reasoning? And so we have tried to balance some of the procedural and conceptual. And then a big thing is that we started talking about re-engagement lessons, which is looking at formative assessments. And we take something that's not just, hey, here's a worksheet, and then let's look at how kids did on it. No, it's let's take an interesting task that they have interesting work. We take their ideas and then we look at them together with our classes to say, where are our understandings?
Can you tell them what formative assessment?
Oh, formative assessment is so exit tickets, right? That's an example of formative assessment. We need to take like a temperature check of, are they getting this? Are they not? Where are they having questions? And even when teachers are walking around the room and looking at your work, they're doing formative assessment by seeing what you're doing. When they call on you, those are formative assessments we're understanding, but even just short little things like that. And a huge, by the way, shout out to Westmore's. Part of what led some of this to understand that we needed full district course alike days was that I had gotten excited about something called lesson study. I had heard this was going to be great. And Westmore's team, fabulous course 1 team led by Nicole Polo, Matthew Joe, Kevin Tan as a student teacher, and Isabella Las Marias, they came together and they did a lesson study around a unit. And it was so much work and they did so much amazing collaboration that I was like, I can't possibly, we don't have the time to ask teachers to do that. They don't have common planning periods, but we can at least have a common day where they can go to their sites and start that process. Maybe they're not observing each other the way they did in lesson study, but it really was this inspiration of what could be possible. And they really bonded as a team, and it showed kind of what we can do through collaboration. So the other things, if you look at the PD and pedagogies that teachers sought out, I just want to say this isn't like going to a conference. These are things that teachers themselves have asked and wanted to do. This is not top-down training. This is, and as an instructional coach and our model in this district, teachers do not change and learn unless they want to change. They have something they want to change, right? It has to come from them and what fits for them, and working towards the goals. So for example, building thinking classrooms, some of us at Terra Nova, myself included, as well as a couple of folks at Jeff, have done elements of the thinking classroom. Some folks at Westmore, Nicole Polo in particular, has done the modern classroom, which has been able to be shared. It's a website with videos and everything that's able to be shared across the district. Complex instruction. Ms. Orenholt has done extensive training in that, as well as trained led some trainings with other teachers. And the projects that she does at her sites, we get to use because of that. Some of us did a county workshop and then book club on dismantling racism in mathematics instruction. And we've done in-house trainings on Desmos activities and then constructing meaning and grading for equity as district initiatives. So this is part of why I say that is that, and I want to really just say this is sought out by teachers, is that it is through that reflection process that we come together out of interest. So that things like when we're teaching new courses and when we're implementing new standards, we have ideas to we have people to bounce ideas off of. We have a foundation for growth, and we can be vulnerable with each other and be like, I have no idea how to teach this. Like, let's talk about this. How do you introduce this topic? So, all right. So then our CASP scores, what are we doing and what plans do we have about them? So the good, the bad, and the reality, and I wouldn't really say the good, maybe some of the stuff we're starting to do now would be the good. If you look, Ms. Baca did a presentation last fall on this. So our scores are a little bit above the states. So I wouldn't call that good, but what is actually bad is this idea of, this fact that our certain subgroups, in particular, African-American, Hispanic, low income, and EL students are scoring even lower than our California scores in those same, in particular, African-American and Hispanic, when we've looked at even grades, continue to have disparate outcomes. So we do need to deal with that. And we also need to deal with the reality of what do we have control over? I mean, they take it in 11th grade. They're almost out of here. And for those students who have bought into the system and like they're like, yes, I believe in this system, I trust this system, they're more likely to do well on the test and engage with it. How can we get more students engaging with it? And that's the reality that we're dealing with. So what are we currently doing? Huge shift is trying to go out with admin coming into your classes. They did it at TN, coming into classes and saying, please try, please understand students why this is important. It isn't just personal. Like, no, it really is that we can potentially have more funding for other programs. We can spend our money and energy elsewhere rather than playing catch up. We also have our teachers talking a little bit more about why it's important with our course 3. All course 3 teachers agreed to give what's called an interim assessment, meaning a practice assessment. And these are put out by the CASP. And then we're doing now Renaissance benchmarks. So we'll look at growth over time and be able to have some data from 9th and 10th grade. And then, like I said, PD, professional development focus on responding to formative assessment. Because if we understand where you all are at as students, then we can actually tailor how we're doing some of that, some of those responding to the benchmarks and responding to those interim assessments. We can do a better job of that. And going forward, continue to have collaboration that addresses relevance and accessibility. relevance for students in their lives, not just to the real world, but how do they have meaning in that classroom? Accessibility does not mean, lacking rigor or dumbing it down. What you'll hear some people in a panic state. It's like, no, everybody can have access to something and be extended in their thinking. And so working on that so that students feel valued when they come to school and it's exciting. And we'll also be, we're going to be working to have course 1 and course 2 teachers doing some of those interim assessment questions and continuing to spiral review and including more open tasks. So some of you might not know why that last one maybe matters as much, but that brings us to our last bit, the new California framework. So what is it? And then I'll talk about how it might drive our work. So California framework, by the way, this is the last section. This is 4 of 4. So we're almost done. And then the math framework is something that's not policy. It's not something that is like curriculum or something you have to do. It is something that's a guiding principle about how we teach. And so what's really new about it this year is that it's come out and I have heard people panic about it. Why are they talking about equity and engagement? It's just math. It is not just math to the students that are in the class. They are humans in that class and have an identity and ideally have agency in that class. So this idea that it's somehow you're being like woke math that's like non-math is ridiculous, as if we're not humans in a class engaging in community learning. So, but now we're actually calling it out. So I just want to call that to attention, that there is a focus on equity engagement. And that's the big thing. And that's kind of what's pushing some people's buttons. You might hear about other things, but it's really ultimately that and this pushback on DEI. I love this quote. Students from the framework, students benefit from viewing mathematics as a vibrant, interconnected, beautiful, relevant, and creative set of ideas. That interconnected is that integrated pathway we're talking about, those big ideas. Actually relevant and beautiful, you have to have equity and engagement. So those 5 components, we already talked about planning around those big ideas, but using open and engaging tasks, that is something that is correlated. Some of those MAC-MARS tests that I was referencing, whatever they are, you don't need to know what they are, but basically what districts that do those correlated to higher test scores, SBAT. Teaching towards social justice, culturally relevant pedagogy, actually trying to say, this is how it's relevant to your life. And inviting components 4 and 5, inviting students questions and conjectures. Who's doing the sense making? Is it the students or is it the teacher? And the students have to force themselves onto it. We want to shift to having students making more of the sense, making the like, okay, I'm understanding this, et cetera. And that's through those different kinds of tasks than how we grew up with, than just solve this problem. And then prioritizing reasoning and justification. That's that critical thinking. And so those are, I'm hoping we can really prioritize that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Opening up for any questions or comments. Oh, you got a round of applause. Go ahead.
Sorry, I have a quick question. So I'm a TA in Math 1 for Oceana High School. And with component 2, I would say I really agree with that, because some students find visuals a lot better to learn. Others just like the pure theorem and they just want me to give them a formula to use. I was wondering if you had any data or if you did any analysis on how paper, because I'm pretty sure Ocean uses paper as like a tutoring service for students. If there's any idea on how paper is working for students regarding math and if that's helping support them or if that's not being as effective.
Anecdotally, I don't have data on it. I have seen that transcripts of interactions between students and the tutors, and it is the Socratic method. So it is trying to get the students to do the sense making again and find out where they know and meet them where they're at. I think one of the big issues is that we don't utilize it enough. And this is something that we've talked about in our collaboration days about actually, we just need to actually have a day, just like the English teachers do, where we say every student needs to submit, some problems or log on to paper because we could be utilizing it more. Absolutely.
I think so. And then I know Terra Nova has a peer tutoring or a peer help program that sometimes does some math.
No, I think that Jeff, they'll
That's
have
Jeff.
tutors. Yeah.
Sorry, my apologies. I was wondering if there's maybe a way, like for component 4, on student questions, because I know you mentioned math, and the way it's taught has changed over the years. I mean, now we're shifted into this integrated curriculum compared to just algebra and geometry. And so one thing that's been, I think, really helpful is having maybe a day or a program in which Jefferson Union High School upperclassmen are helping with that foundation, helping our underclassmen learn. Because I think if you really solidify that math 1 foundation, it'll be a lot easier for math 2 and math 3. We can see an increase in scores. And so if there's something we can do, because I think it's a great idea, the whole paper solution, but not all students are able to learn online, just talking to like a chat box on how to learn, on how they're supposed to figure it out. But having another student involved, I think that could really help. And that could go towards like community service and showing that we as a district build each other up and we're building a community. And so I think if we look at something like that, if you wanted to, you could do it cross district or like inter-district, where you have a student at Jefferson helping a student at Oceana and forming that relationship. I think that could also increase our community as well through math, and it would go through our equity engagement as well.
It's a great idea. Absolutely. And plus students listen very well to students. You're talking each other's language. It's great. It's perfect.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I love the energy you're giving. I can tell you are very passionate. Like you didn't read the slide. You didn't even look at it. You're like, I know what I'm talking about. I love this. And I would just like to say a few comments on what you said. I feel like I learned a lot with this slide and your explanation, of course. So the working overtime, I think that's great, because some newcomers, like they might be in different levels. We don't know if they're in a lower level or higher level, but it can be very stressful to just, like you said, shove it all. And the drops in D's and F were incredible, 10%, like you said. And of course, we know that that pandemic really affected our learning, because kind of like what he said, like in person, it's better because math is very visual. Like it's very visual. So it should be one of the subjects that can be understood quickly if it's taught correctly. If like the teacher gives energy, I will say that, because in a math class, personally, I hear my friends talking about math being boring and stuff, but it all depends on the energy the teacher gives. Because I've been having really good math teachers giving good energy and good explanation, and it just makes me want to involve too. And so also with the formative assessment of checking where students are at, I feel like that's also very important, because you might finish the lesson as a teacher, but what if a student fall behind, like it missed a step and it got lost completely? So it's very important. And I also, as a student, appreciate when a teacher sees me lost and goes up to me and be like, "Can I help you?" I love that. So again, I love your energy. I can tell you love your job, because it's like, if I had you as a teacher, I would really be involved in your class.
Hold together. Thanks. See, and you thought it was going to be a boring presentation. I get that all the time with math.
Go ahead.
I had a question, because I know you talked about how different districts unfortunately do not have integrated math. I was wondering if a transfer student from that district were to come to our district, which we do have integrated math, what would be like the procedures? Because technically, if they start with algebra and they go to math 2, or how would like the learning be this equivalent, because they will not have the same like starting.
That's a great question. And it is one that comes up frequently. So if a student comes in and they've taken Algebra 1 and they're in 10th grade, they'll go into Math Course 2, and they will see some of the same algebra concepts. Most Algebra 1 teachers in traditional, in the traditional setting, they actually don't go in as in depth as like the standards, the actual standards, sorry, would say like you have to go. With quadratics. So they'll be pushed. I think one of the bigger issues is they haven't seen some of the geometry in course 1. There's an incredible overlap between Math 8 and course 1. So if they usually have some background knowledge, and some of that same knowledge is reinforced in the geometry that they see in course 2. But there can be this kind of mismatch there. Students need to pass both semesters of Algebra 1 or both semesters of Math Course 1 in order to get a diploma. So that also needs to have, like, people want to be keeping an eye on some of that as well. But in terms of the skills, it is something that the teacher that they're landing in needs to be aware of. Absolutely. It's a good point.
I also had a question regarding the CAS. For the CAS, is that like the only thing they use as a resource to see a student's statistics, or is there other ways? Because I know that students do not technically always perform the best based off assessment.
So that's the one test they take that's statewide for math that's required for us to have funding. And to look at for accountability that they're from the state point of view. As a district, one of the great things that I've really appreciated about working with Ms. Baca, Dr. Robinson, is really this messaging out of multiple measures. So it used to be that if a student just got a D, let's say in one semester of course 1, they would go into a course 2 bridge. But instead, with getting rid of that, there was this idea of, hey, there need to be multiple measures. So within the district, we can look at, say, the Renaissance benchmark. We can look at their incoming 8th grade CASP scores. We can look at junior. We can look at college and career readiness. There's a wide variety that is humans in the district, but for the state, there are different dashboards. And for math, that is the one test.
May I add to that answer? Thank you. Really good questions and really good answers. They may not know what a bridge is. So if you would speak to that in a minute, but then also multiple measures means, different ways of assessing what students know. So some of them are your interim assessments, your classroom work that you're doing. There are all these different ways. And that test, that one test, which you rightly said, may not accurately display what you students know, actually is a really important thing for you guys to take for many different reasons for the school district. When we want to recruit students, we're all talking about trying to have more students. When people look at those test scores, that's just one really superficial reason, but it is one of those measures that we can use to see how students are learning. So it's one of those measures. But I think when you were in elementary school, everybody, you took the test, tried your best, and that was kind of a big deal. By the time you're juniors in high school, you kind of have figured out that it's not maybe making a really big impact on your personal life. It's not affecting your grade and that kind of stuff. But I mean, that's what we were talking about, messaging in classrooms, that it's really important that students really do for the school district and for you guys, that you guys put effort out on that test. But if you would talk a little bit about what that bridge and us doing away with some of the bridge, what that even is, because I'm not sure that everybody here even knows.
It was a college prep class. It was a non-college prep class that students would go into in between course 1 and course 2 if they received a D or an F in the first in math course 1. I taught it for many years and I loved it because we could review, re-engage, preview new concepts. But it got it to where juniors were taking then math course 2 and they maybe could have just caught up. And it was putting them behind in terms of being college ready. We got rid of it. Actually, when the data was showing that the outcomes were no better when they went into course 2. So why, and sometimes it was worse. So why are we having them repeat other than for credits. So it is something, and sometimes you'll hear people say it. There is a course 3 bridge technically at a couple of sites. And that is really sort of this last end that could potentially get students to be ready for course 3.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a comment. So as a former math teacher, I every confidence in this being exciting. You've delivered. As a Marvin Gaye fan, I'm very pleased. So sister, I'd like to point out what you said about professional development. It makes me happy for 2 reasons. One, as a first year teacher in a new place at the oldest school in the country, where the parents say things to you like Harvard was founded, so our boys had somewhere to go to college. It was a very lonely existence as a math teacher. So it's wonderful to hear about professional development. And that's one of the things that made my very small number of years enjoyable, was the professional development. Also, as a student teacher, I worked at a high school and they had this professional development day with the partner, is that the right word? Middle schools. And so we were there all day and I didn't really get it. It was a good time. People exchanged. It started a little choppy, but it got better. In the end, I kind of asked some questions like, what were we trying to do here? And so one guy said, well, what we're trying to do is we got to find a way to bring some understanding here today about how the idea was, this guy says, hey, I can tell 5 minutes of Algebra 1, who went to this school and who went to that school. And what we thought was, we're going to have to tell this school, you got to do it that way. And that's not what happened. And what happened was, he goes, I can't believe how, whatever he said, how enriching it was just to hear someone else talk about, hey, this is how I do it. And it was rewarding for everyone that way, you know. So thank you for focusing on professional development as well as all this other stuff, because I don't know, for me, it was personally enriching. And also I saw it, you know, enriching pretty much this whole K through 12, well, the higher part of this K through 12 district. So only love can conquer hate of math.
I just want to say it's just amazing to see how far we've come with regards to our attitudes towards teaching math, you know, over the years. And it's really powerful to just see how we are incorporating the equity mindset into how we approach our students. And the fact that the new California Math Framework really encompasses so much of that which we hold dear as a district is really pretty cool to see. Just a quick question with regards to the Mac Mars tasks. I'm just trying to understand exactly what that will do, or if we are thinking about utilizing it, what will that do for us?
So when we first partnered with the Silicon Valley Math Initiative, that was kind of, Jonas Barber was here at the time. And that was something that the district tried out for a couple of years, where all the teachers at that time, it was course 1, were giving these tasks, and they were open tasks that leveled up. And then everybody, it was founded from that organization, and they would give them and sample tests that were like it throughout the year. And in theory, teachers were supposed to be responding to it, doing those re-engagement lessons. My understanding is it wasn't done, you know, kind of just like anything you start new. It's, you know, woo, right. Some are doing it, some are not, some are bought in, some weren't. And instead, what everybody for sure did was they all came and did one at the end. And then they all came together to grade it. And after going from traditional to that, and everybody going into a room, there was a lot of pushback, and there was a lot of, why are we doing this? I don't understand. In general, those tasks, Ms. Oren Holt and I have looked at them and familiarized ourselves with them. There are some kind of ways you look and you can watch how they grow, and have modeled many tasks after that. We and encouraging teachers to use it and use it for formative assessment. So some of the feedback I got from the PD was, where can we find more of these? And really what it is that feedback loop where you're giving them the assessments. You're saying, hey, let's try this and then let's respond to it, and doing that consistently. Those districts have had, and again, correlation is not causation, but correlated higher test scores. And I can't help but wonder how much of it is just that process of coming together, talking about it. What do my students know? Isn't this interesting? One of my favorite things is Mr. Berg at Jeff walking around and going, ooh, interesting, interesting about students, right? And that makes me think, oh, I didn't realize how interesting that was. You're right. And then that brings us to talking about the math. So it's more that process, I believe.
All right, great. Thank you.
May I add to that too? Sorry. This actually, Miss Van Rapp, Deputy Superintendent Van Raphorst and I used to work in two of our partner elementary districts many years ago when this all started. And so I was a teacher and then I was a math coach. And I became a math coach because I always throughout school thought that I was not smart in math. So I didn't want to do that to my students. And I wanted to be the kind of teacher that you see here. And so we were very, very involved with the MARS tasks. And I know, Sagar, you went to my former school district. You probably did some of those math tasks and maybe don't know in Mr. Condon's class what they were called. But they really, I do believe that causation is not, correlation is not causation, but they do lead students, they're open-ended, right? So you were talking about, I don't know, there was a bullet point in here, but they build upon each other. And my belief, because we did in my former school district, have teachers giving them throughout the year. And then we had that day where everybody graded them together. The mere sort of doing the tasks and thinking about mathematics in that different way led to changes in how teachers were teaching. So it wasn't just the math task that the kids were given. It was, I believe, the teacher learning that also went from that. But I'm thrilled and really, really excited that we're moving forward. And I'm very happy with the new math framework. So
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, real quick. I'll try to make it quick. First of all, thank you. The presentation was awesome. It's nice to see how, math can, what you're doing with math, trying to humanize it a little bit and make it fun. Because I have 3 kids, 45, 17, and 10. And I can't tell you, this one subject right here is giving me a lot of pain through the years. Try to keep up with how they're teaching them, what they're teaching them. Just when I think I get a hold of another way to teach somebody how to, add numbers together, or one of my kids, I'm learning a different way to do it. I've Googled way more math stuff than I ever want to, just because of all the changes that have happened with how we teach this subject. So that's been frustrating. And it's really nice to see that, we're really actually starting to put the effort into breaking this down and making it, so that our kids understand all the importance that goes into learning the different aspects of math and giving them different pathways to kind of go forward with, where their strong suits are. Because, it's just, I know, for instance, like, one of my kids struggled in math, and when they struggled and felt like they weren't progressing, it was disengaging for them and it wasn't fun. And that made it a really sore spot for us to even talk about sometimes. And how can I help you? And what can I do? I think it's just because there wasn't structure in place like this to really kind of break it down for them enough to see the different components that go into the whatever aspect of the math curriculum they were in, just to kind of give them ideas and different ways to think about breaking down problems and stuff. So, and I see that happening here, which is really cool. And I just want to say thank you for, all the hard work that you've done, putting it. I just looking at all the bullet points, I can see you could go down each bullet point and it's probably a mile long, just kind of how you've really broken it down and everything that went into that. Thank you.
Can I just say one thing in response? For one thing, the support of Dr. Robinson and Ms. Baca in just brainstorming with Dr. Robinson about stuff. Also, all the math teachers, they bought into it. They chose and said again that they wanted to come. So they're coming with their brilliant ideas and sharing it. And it really is like this incredible group effort that is beautiful to see. We have so many great teachers. And then also Ms. Baca always somehow managing to find the ability in the district to support that. And to your point though, about parents, I actually think this is one way we can really improve is having those conversations with parents, because math doesn't look like how we taught it. And sometimes actually what's interesting is some parents will be very excited that teachers are teaching it differently and more sense making. And some parents are really concerned that their students aren't being challenged enough. And some parents are really concerned that it's not. Just let me do the same formula over and over again, and you just fit the pattern and we're done. Because my student is an honor student and they're getting a C in math and I don't understand why. And having those conversations is really hard, but necessary. And it does need to be a conversation of how do we support each other. So,
no, I agree.
Tearing out your hair either.
I agree because, there's been plenty of times where I've reached out to teachers and asked for their help. Like, what are you doing? Can I help you help my child learn what you're teaching? I need to know because I don't know what you guys are doing. I know how I learned, and I'm not going to try to teach my kid that if you're trying to teach them something else.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to show them that I want to support you guys. I want to be able to support you guys in your efforts because it's going to make them better anyway. Right? So, but yeah, thank you for that.
So I just want to thank you for all your efforts and your passion, of course. 10, almost 11 years ago, I remember my first board meeting, and it was to adopt the new math curriculum.
Sorry.
Oh, and I did not understand all the angry faces and the teachers that taught my son. And I tried to talk, and there was one out there who went, and I felt so intimidated. I thought, what am I doing on the board that my teachers don't like what I think makes sense? We had Silicon Valley Math Initiative there. We had the two superintendents from PSD and Jeff L. speaking, saying how well this is why we're adopting it. And yet we had so much pushback, and I was so conflicted because I came from being a PTA mom to the board, and all of a sudden I wasn't connecting with the teachers. I felt like I was, what am I doing here? But to come this far is just amazing to me. And call it woke math if you want, but it's fantastic. This is where we need to be. My daughter was taking AP Calculus during the pandemic on Zoom. It was rough. And we were having a rough time in that house, and she had it hard. She said, I don't understand. All her friends would turn to each other and teach each other because they weren't understanding. The teacher was great, but there was that other connectedness that you needed that the pandemic wasn't giving them. So I'm hoping we finally are emerging from that and that we can continue with this. But I just want to thank you so much again.
And really quickly, I went back to that first meeting too. When we were talking about this. Yeah. That was a fun meeting. I was like, I'm a board president at the start of a lot of things. Like it was COVID and this changing of Common Core. But I will say, I'm glad that we're thinking about math holistically, right? There's a lot of things tied to math. There's a reason why parents, the ELA, English Language Arts program, was changed just as much during Common Core, and we did not get parents and everyone coming out in an uproar about it. There's a different attitudes societally that are attached to math, and that we rate intelligence, we rate how well we are as parents, all these things to how well our children are performing just in math. And so I think we have to think about all the things we do in that way. There's so many other things that come into play when our children and our students are in a math class. And how the failure, by the time they come to us, if you fail in elementary and in middle school, how much of an effort are you going to be giving? Mental health wise, it's a healthy thing to check out of something that you are constantly failing, and makes you feel like you're not intelligent. So thinking about this in a different way outside of just changing the, how we teach formulas and how we, the order in which we teach is the thing that makes me the happiest about this. With a lens on equity, the word equity is starting to bother me a little bit because the way it's being misused. But I will say with the lens on giving the students what they need, that's all it is. That's all we're trying to do. And then to Jerome's point, and in the presentation, really focusing on the why of what we're doing with everybody, with the staff, with the students. And I think the same effort that we put into the staff understanding why this is important, what you talked about, Tony, about having the students understand why the test is important and not having that come, I can tell my teenagers, when they were teenagers, why something is important all the time. And they're like, sure, okay. If we can have that message formulated by other students, that we want to be able to take risks. We want to be able to try new things. And for our ability to be able to do that, we have to show some performance on the test. So how do we communicate that in a way that students will understand? And I know that a lot of our students have cared about the legacy they leave behind for students that are coming after us, possibly framing it that way. That this test is one of the things that you help leave behind for other students. So I'm very proud of the work that we've done. And I know that we're starting on this pathway and hopefully getting better. And I hope that not just our community, where we're very blessed in this community, where I feel so bad for my other school board colleagues in Sequoia and San Mateo Union and how the parents have been really beating up on them in this area, that we've had a level of grace to be able to do this work. But the other thing is, I'm afraid the state of California is going to do something. And so being able to show some progress of the state of California doesn't do what it normally does, which is step in, we worked hard and they switch everything up again and you have to start all over. So thank you for all your work in this. And,
Can I add
yes.
one more thing? So I just want to say that we won't be where we are right now if it wasn't for Miss Ashford sitting over there with her expertise and her passion. And so her leadership is really, really instrumental in moving us forward with this work. So thank you, Miss Ashford.
Thank you, Miss Ashford.
Thank you.
We're very grateful. Okay, moving on to our second interim. I'm sorry, I'm skipping ahead. We're now moving on to our financial audit report. And I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Superintendent Van Rathhorst.
Thank you, President Salahuddin, members of the board. Tonight, we are going to have a brief presentation from someone who knows a lot about math. So tonight, I'm recommending that you take action to accept the 2022-2023 General Fund Audit as presented. This audit was conducted by Chavant and Associates. And Mr. Paul Pham is here tonight to give you an overview of their findings.
Thank you.
You do have, if you wanted to go to anything on the report or if there's a question, but you don't have to go through the report.
Okay. Do I have control of this?
You should.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Tina. I appreciate that. And thank you, trustees, for inviting me out to share with you the results of the June 30th, 2023 audit. What I'd like to do is,
Is it scrolling?
It's not scrolling. Is it the keyboard?
Just
Okay.
advanced. Now you can scroll.
Great. Perfect. Okay. So what I like to do is just kind of start out with some of the auditing standards, go over some key financial highlights, and then go into the audit results. And feel free to cut me off at any point with questions. I don't mind. So the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, they issue auditing standards that we adhere to in our audit. And because the district is a local government, the Government Accountability Office, they also issue auditing standards that we adhere to in our audit as well. And whenever a local agency expends more than $750,000 in federal awards, they're subject to a single audit, which, for your district, you guys do that pretty much every year. And so this last year, we selected the ESSER program as the major program for our audit. And so Uniform Guidance, they issue some compliance supplements that we utilize in our audit of your federal programs. And then the Education Audit Appeals panel, they put out an audit guide every year that we use to audit the state programs. And as you know, a lot of changes there. Last year, a lot of new programs, even this year, a lot of new programs. So we use that in the audit of those. And then lastly, since you guys have the bond program, we were also engaged to audit your bond measure program. And so that's guided by Proposition 39, and the Education Audit Appeals Panel, as part of that audit guide, there's a supplement they put out with it that aids us in auditing your construction bond programs. So, all right, so on to the numbers, the fun math stuff. So what I want to do is just kind of cover some of the big stuff. So what last year when I was out here presenting, I'm not sure, actually I see a lot of familiar faces, but I want to kind of maybe revisit it just in case it can get a little complicated. But we talked about your pension plan, how the net pension liability went down a lot last year. And so what we were saying was that whenever contributions are made into the plan, those contributions, whether it be the employees, which are, your teachers and your classified employees, whatever, the employer, which is the district, and then also the state makes contributions as well as an on behalf payment. So all those contributions get invested. And the stock market from a few years ago, as you remember, was really good, right? And it was on fire. So that reduced your liability. We also discussed last year that we know from history that all those good returns from the stock market went away. And so we're anticipating that net pension liability would go right back up. So that's what we're seeing here, that your liabilities went from year to year. Let me put my cursor on it right here. So you've seen that huge jump. So that's one piece of it. The other piece of it is that, yes, issued new debt. So that accounts for some of the changes in your long-term liabilities. So when they do these valuations on your pension plan, they make a lot of assumptions. One of those assumptions being the return on investment. And so when they get that wrong, they amortize that difference between the expected return versus the actual return as over 5 years, and that gets reported under deferred inflows. And so you see that big decrease in the deferred inflows here. So that's just kind of the offset. So it's kind of like it kind of creates a smoothing out effect when you have a lot of market fluctuations. So bottom line of it all, your net pension liability went down slightly, but you've got a deficit $40.4 million. Just so it's kind of a big, scary number, being in the hole that much. But just to kind of get some light on it, a lot of it is just fancy accounting. So when you issue debt like bonds and stuff, you're going to get cash, right? So the cash offsets liability, right? When GASB 68 rolled out and GASB 75 rolled out for your OPEB plan, you don't get that effect, right? It's not like you have this huge debt that hits your books and you have an asset to offset it, right? So that's what causes a lot of local agencies when those new pronouncements came out to go into a deficit. So you guys aren't necessarily alone in that, but really what it comes down to and what's important to you is making those annual contributions, making the required contributions that the PERS and STIRS has set out for you guys to make. Budgeting wise, those are things you want to focus on and just kind of pay as you go. So with respect to, so last year, one of the other things that we discussed was GASB 87, which reinterpreted the way that we accounted for your leases. This year, there's a new one, GASB 96, which was very similar, and it changed the way we considered your subscription liability. So the district has some subscriptions. And so what that did was it put a $1.7 million right of use asset on your along with your capital assets, and it increased your liability with a subscription liability of the same amount, $1.7 million. So again, it's a book entry. It doesn't impact your funds at all.
Right.
So
None of it is real money.
yeah, yeah. So okay, so what you do care about is your funds, and so in your funds, you'll see that. Let's see. Just past it. Yeah, right here. So your fund balance actually did really well. And so you have overall a $17.9 million increase in fund balance. Most of that's coming from the building fund. So you guys issue the new bonds, that cash gets put into the building fund so you can spend it on your construction project. So that's what you're really seeing there. So overall, the general before I change it, the general fund did have a decrease of $5.5 million. And that's mainly, let me go over the trends with you. You can see over time what that looks like right here. So if you look here, this is the 3-year trend for the general fund. And you see that you've had a surplus spending of the last 3 years, and you've got a strong reserve as of June 30th, just under 13% reserve. So for a district your size, you're well above the recommendation that the state puts out. But I want to caution that, a lot of the reason for some of the increases that you've had is coming from one-time funding. And so, as you know, with one-time funding, it goes away. And so you guys are doing the responsible thing and budgeting accordingly. You see revenues are budgeted to drop pretty substantially, as we would expect, and your deficit spending. So you've got a budget shortfall. So that's something to keep an eye on over the next few years, and then monitoring, obviously, every year as you guys do what the governor's budget puts out. But as of June 30th, you guys are looking good. The district's doing a great job of handling your finances. So if there aren't any questions on the numbers, I'll go into the audit results.
Okay, nope.
All right.
Carry on.
So I'm happy to report that we had a clean audit. Skip to that so you guys can follow along. All right. So we had a clean audit. When it comes to your financial statements, we issued an unmodified opinion. That basically means that your financial statements were presented fairly in all material respects. Internal controls of financial reporting and non-compliance. Our audit did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls that we considered to be material weaknesses, and our test disclosed no instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. And then lastly, when it comes to compliance, the district complied in all material respects to the compliance requirements of state programs, as well as the federal program, and as well as, the Proposition 39. So overall, the district did a great job. We had no significant uncorrected adjustments, no difficulties during our audit, no disagreements with management. And lastly, I just wanted to thank Tina and her team and just the district as a whole. Our audit is pretty invasive. We ask a lot of questions. We ask for a lot of support, and it's across the board, all departments. So we know it takes away from their day-to-day duties. So thank you for all that help to get us through that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Unless there's any questions, can I get a motion to approve the 2022-2023 financial audit report?
So moved. Second.
All those approved, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. The second item is our second interim report for the 2023-2024 budget. It's that first.
Thank you again. So tonight I'll bring you the second interim budget report, which is based on the financial activities from July 1st, 2023 through January 31st of 24. So it is required by EDCO that the board certify this report in one of three ways, either positive certification, qualified certification, or negative certification. And the documents that have been presented to you show that we will be able to meet our financial obligations for the current year and the subsequent 2 years. So after I review a couple of key pieces of information, I will be recommending that you approve a positive certification. So there is an executive summary, which I am projecting right now that hopefully you had a chance to take a look at. The first thing I want to point out is this page that shows our adopted budget versus our first interim versus our second interim and the changes. You can see that our ending fund balance is positive. And the biggest change between the second interim and now, you can see we're in a little better position. I'm projecting about an $8 million deficit as opposed to almost a $10.5 million deficit. And that is due to some improved tax revenue projections, which is typical for this time of year. We get a little bit better information from the assessor's office. And then also fewer out of district placements for our special ed program. Those are the two main things that account for that difference. And then there's some other various adjustments. So now, as you can see, we are projected to have about an 18% reserve. This projection includes 3%. That is our required state mandated reserve, as well as our 5% strategic reserve that is per our board policy, and then about 10% in unallocated amounts. And so with that, I'll move on to the projection for the multi-year. Multi-year projection shows a positive ending fund balance for all 3 years. The assumptions that I made are similar to the same as during first interim. One thing that I did account for differently is that in 24-25, the state assessor's office is projecting a much lower increase in our tax revenue. So this is not a decrease in our tax revenue. It's saying that instead of this year, we had a 6% increase over last year, that next year we might only have a 3% increase. And that's due to some changes in how the redevelopment funds are being calculated. And as I get more information on that, I will let you know. The projections for the next 3 years show a continued deficit spending. So we are spending more than we are bringing in and spending down the reserves. So that's something we'll need to keep a close eye on. The reserves, I like to compare the reserves to our gap between what the LCFF formula would provide and what we get in tax revenue, because the LCFF formula is kind of like our backstop. We will always get at least that much. So this year, there's about a $5 million gap. And then next year, it's projected to be about a $7.7 million gap. And the 25-26 school year, about a $10 million gap. And then the next graph shows that gap as a percent of spending so that we can compare it to our reserves. So in the current year, the gap is only about 5.8% of our spending. And we have about an 18% reserve. So we have plenty of reserve to cover that gap if we were to fall short. The gray bar is our reserve with Fund 17. So that's including all of our reserve. And then for next year, you also see that the gap is would be able to be covered by our reserves. But in the third year is where we have spent our reserves down to the point where the gap is more than what we have in reserves. And because it's years out, I think that what I've told you before is I'm comfortable with that because it gives us time to make adjustments as those years get closer. If it turns out that this does come to fruition and we feel uncomfortable, we have time to make adjustments and reduce our spending or try to increase our revenue. So that is the main thing that I wanted to point out. The next update that you will get will be at our work study in April, and I am happy to take any questions at this time.
Thank you so much. Opening up for any comments or questions.
Just real quick on the STRS and FERS percentages, those are coming from them directly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. glad to see that at least STIRS isn't moving the next.
STIRS is staying flat, yes.
And it's at least modest increases of PERS,
Yeah.
so okay, not like what we've seen in the past.
Yes. So I just want to thank you so much for your work and the entire district for the work here. Because again, I've said it before and I'm gonna keep saying it so people understand. We could be in a much different place. A lot of the school districts around the state are in a very different place. A lot of pink slips are going out right now in layoffs. And we are fortunately not in that position. And I think it's because we, sometimes we have to make difficult decisions, but it's so that we can continue to protect our employees and stay whole. And not do what just the California norm, which is build up, break down model, which is not good for students. So thank you so much, for not just taking good care of our budget, but providing information to us so that, it's easy for us to understand and also advocate. So thank you so much, Deputy Ben Roberts. Thank you. And with that, can I get a motion to approve our 2023-2024 second interim report?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, so moving on to our next item, consideration of future agenda items to see if we can bring back the calendar or just that we've had agenda items for just a singular date. So I think if we could just bring back that singular date to see if we can move the date of just that meeting.
Yeah, I think it's fine to just bring the calendar back for an adoption with a different date. If the board directs me to not have it on that date, I'm making that assumption. Yeah, we would like to have it on a different date, not election.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so no problem. We'll bring it back.
Cool. Any other future agenda items? Oh, all right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you so much.